All right. Just share this. The chats. Resizing a little bit. So now this screen capture live chats. Okay. This is weird. Okay, so live chat is probably not gonna be properly included because of the screen capture. All right, the chat is actually. All right, I guess we can start. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. As it is a tradition by now, on Wednesdays, we do have a meetup, which is promptly called Know Enough AI to be Dangerous. Usually what we do on these meetups is that we go through the news of the week. We try to kind of keep up with the news and with everything that's happening in the AI space. But I want us to actually know enough AI to be dangerous. So this week, we're going to pivot a little bit. We're going to take a brief breather through the news of the week, but we are going to focus more on what is an agent, because that's a question that is being asked like so many times all over again. And it all stems from basic primitives. So we'll go step by step, each primitive by each primitive, in order for everyone to basically get the grasp of what is this agentic revolution that everybody keeps talking about. My name is Martin, and I've been doing these meetups for well over a year now. I'm a software developer, and without further ado, thank you for coming, and let's get on with it. So, let me just start the timer. What are we going to cover? We do have 8 things that moved, some harnesses, some models, some OSS news. Basic question, what even is an agent? How does it loop? And everything else around it. Forms, tool caller, coding harness, gateway, enterprise, orchestrator. 5 primitives of an agent, an envelope, kernel, transport, tools, context, with real code slices. How harnesses differ. Cloud code to Codex to Hermes, OpenClaw, side-by-side comparison. A project that I'm currently working on called Kyber Agents, we're going to tear it down and how I use these primitives in order to construct something that is different. And then we'll do a breakout discussion where we basically just split and talk about things that we need to do or we're doing. So, on this week's news, part 1 is the harness. Vercel has shipped Eve. It's basically file system-based agent. It is a very cool concept that was explored multiple times in the past. What it means is that instead of having all of these crazy software things that you need to be like a half literate coder in. This literally means here is a folder on your hard drive. Here is a schema of how you actually name these folders, drop the things you want to drop inside, and let the agent, let the AI figure it out. You want it to be a content creator, perfect. Here are the tools. You want it to be something else, perfect. Just drop it in. Drop it in the actual file system, and the agent itself will figure it out. It's roughly how it works with other harnesses as well, but Vercel is trying to pioneer this very easy, very agentic first era of approach. The coming loop. PI and Flask author names the exact distinction that we actually go a little bit deeper in our talk. The agent loop, a model that calls tools till done versus the harness loop. That is the thing that is outside of that initial small tool calling loop. Injects, requeries, what decides that done is actually done. What is the trigger for the task for when you go around and around, like, okay, now I'm finished. He argues hands-off harness loops are starting to produce worse code than a human in the loop did. I strongly agree with that statement, as normally whenever I do fully autonomous agentic loops, I actually spend more time fixing bugs that it introduces than if I actually keep myself on top of that loop or inside that loop. In the open source software sphere, Gemini CLI is retired. Oh, what's up? Gemini CLI is retired in favor of the newer anti-gravity CLI. It kind of sucks because this was an open source project that was actually getting better, but Google completely stopped supporting it. And because there are so many other harnesses right now on the market that are arguably better, there is little to no reason to just continue doing that. Again, weird inflection points, not a big fan of this. I would rather have Gemini CLI there. The good thing is that it's an open source software, so if you ever used it and you want to continue with it, it is actually fairly easy. Harness definition, what makes harness and harness. New constitutive definition is making the rounds. A harness is an agent loop plus tools interface plus context management plus control mechanisms. 4 necessary and pretty much sufficient elements. These same 4 primitives we're about to walk through, and we will apply it as an inclusion test against Cloud Code, Codex, Aider, Klein, OpenHands, and any other harness on the face of Earth. Model is offline. Claude Fable still not back. Womp womp. There has been some talks, and we've seen some like chatter around Anthropic actually requiring KYC. So they'll need you to scan the passport. They will actually want you to prove that you're American in order for you to use it, which is going to suck in the short term. But as it is a custom in this space, I think in reality they'll just rename it something else and make it available worldwide. It's just a legal thing that currently they have to solve. And again, like I said last week, that's what happens when you keep telling everyone that your product is a cyber weapon. Like, eventually someone's gonna believe you. Primitives, OpenAI, Shell plus Skills plus Compaction Guides. A good engineering write-up on 3 production harness primitives, a version skilled bundles. Routing accuracy jumped from 73 to 85%. So it's a standard that if you're adhering to, you'll actually get a little bit better result just by adding some negative examples. I mean, a shell container server-side compaction maps one-to-one to our tools plus context slides, which is great. Also to don't know if I should inject it somewhere around here, but I think it was last week that Apple finally released their virtual machine, so you can run Linux on Apple now, and it's actually quite easy and simple, which was a pain in the ass in the past. Minimal harness, if you're looking for an easy way to start building your own agentic loops and own agentic systems, you can't go wrong with PI. PI is what powers OpenClaw, or what powered OpenClaw at the beginning. It's what made it such a good thing because it is very minimalistic. Now it has a vast ecosystem, so think of it from the perspective that it's essentially WordPress of the agentic era. You basically just grab the raw shell and just keep adding plugins and build it out exactly as you want it. And agentic resource discovery spec. Google is trying to pioneer alongside Microsoft and OpenAI, an open spec for agents to find MCP servers, other agents, open API endpoints. So they're trying to make it somewhat secure in a sense that if you let your Claude or your OpenAI go in the wild on the web, you should compare against some security standard that what you're connecting to is actually safe, the means of connecting to it are actually safe, and Google is trying to pioneer this. There are also very good resources from Vercel on this subject, so if you're into that, take a look into that. Now, let's get to agents. This is the fun part. An agent. What is an agent? It's just a loop. That's it. So the very simplistic approximation of what is agentic loop is there is an inference call. So, hello Claude, can you help me do something? It will use the tools. And continue executing them, of course, because like I need to search for something means that I need to execute the search. Now he gets some results and comes back. And once it comes back, do I need to use tools again? Yes or no? If no, I'm done. If yes, I just continue. That's it. That's your OpenClaw. Meeting adjourned. We can go home. Like, finished. It's that simple. Well, it is that simple, but if you actually want to make it good, the devil is in the details, in the middle steps, in these very thin lines in between the inference call and the tool use. So when you strip away the hype and the chatter around, oh, these agents, like, oh, they're so good. Have you heard about this one? Like, it booked me a meeting with this dude. Like, okay, but what actually happens? How can you construct your own? Are you reliant on someone else building it for you, or can you actually do it yourself? It's a model running in a loop with tools and memory. So we have basic primitives. We have a model, which we will call a model or intelligence. That can be your ChatGPT, that can be your Claude, that can be your DeepSeek, it doesn't really matter. We have a source of intelligence, something that moves around, and then we have tool calls and memory. That's all the systems that you can see on the market. There is no more to it. It's all text. Text goes in, text goes out. Some of that text actually gets executed. Some of it is just plain text. It will tell you hello. The model emits text or a request to call a tool. Harness, which is an important word, runs the tool, feeds the results back, and asks again until the model stops asking. So while not done, response. If you're not done, give me a response. If it has tool calls, give me results, run the tools. And if there are no tools, we're done. The whole field is this loop. Claude Code, Codex, Hermes, OpenClaw, all of them. Every single one of them works on these very basic principles of agentic loops. But the difference between a 30-line toy and a production harness is not the loop, it's the primitives around it. It's what you surround it with. The forms, same loop, absolutely different body and a different story. A single shot tool caller. Search me for X. I searched, here is X. Yay, done. Coding harness. Go into my files, look through the code, open it up, reason through it. Once you're satisfied with your answer, bring me back what I asked for. So we do multiple hops, multiple steps. Gateway is loop and many channels. So it's the same thing. Same thing is still happening. Same thing is still spinning. But we are hitting it from multiple different chats. And we're executing what we are going to be presenting in a short time, a dual loop system. We have many channels, we have persistent memory. So every time I ask the model something, it injects the memory, it injects the context, it enriches it, and only then comes back with an answer. Usually, these gateway assistants come with always-on daemon. Scary word, it's not a daemon, but it is something that consistently runs somewhere. It can be your machine, it usually is somewhere in the cloud. And enterprise, it's basically, again, the same thing, but on top of it, we're packing policies, audits, sandboxes, so it can't escape and go wild. Multi-tenancy, so all of you have different levels of governance and different levels of access to data. And then very popular multi-orchestrators. We featured like paperclip and a single line that you talk to, which then orchestrates different agentic loops. It's loops that spawn loops. Parent agent that delegates sub-agents. Cloud Code and Codex, most prolific coding harnesses. Hermes and OpenClaw, assistant gateways. Kyber agents, enterprise harness. So all of these products fall into different categories. It's all the same loop, but it depends on what you pack on top of it, what defines what the product is good for. Primitive number one, the envelope. So this is the very basic unit of every agentic system. It basically means when I talk to the intelligence, what am I telling it? Normally when you talk, and we are going to use a very simplistic approach, you talk to ChatGPT on the web. That message is never simple. It has its own message envelope. That message envelope contains a lot of things that make it go around. Everything that we talked about so far, it all executes within the actual message. Well, it executes on the model side, but it is parameters of the message envelope. So however you look at it, whatever you are using, it doesn't really matter. Every time that you are interacting with AI, you are starting this agentic loop. Either it's one shot, or it's reason through things, call the tools, or it's there is like a ton of data that you have to process and ton of gates you have to go through. But every single time you are constructing one box that you are handing off to the agent. So this becomes your first primitive. If you know what you want to achieve, you can define what needs to be in the envelope. So content block, obviously, whatever you are typing to the agent, whatever data source you are abstracting from, whatever you are trying to feed to the agent. Tool calls, what tools are available? If I ask you, okay, go and search for something, in the same box, in the same message, I must pass to you, oh, you can bring me back text that says web search something, and that means that when you return it back to me, I can execute it in my harness, in whatever I'm building, be it your Claude or your ChatGPT or Claude Code, Codex, doesn't really matter. So it brings back, I can use web search, feed back the result, and then talk to the user. That's the envelope. It's always in the actual envelope. So you need to be very mindful of what you are constructing, how you're constructing it, and what does the agent actually get from you. Because it's never just plain text. It's always a ton of things slapped on top of it. Primitive number 2, the kernel loop. Now, this is the fun part, because you can abstract as many layers as you want here. The most basic loop, we are doing just tool calls, getting results until we're done. So this is the very basic inner loop. In the inner loop, you can go around in circles depending on what tools you actually give the agents. Doesn't really matter. That will go on and on. Where novel harnesses, such as Claude Code, Codex recently, and most notably OpenClaw and Hermes differ, is how they construct the outer loop. So the outer loop is where your creativity actually can flourish. Because when agent executes, searches the web, constructs slides, codes, you might be able to talk to the agent in the meantime. It observes what's happening in the inner loop, and it can feed you the information right away. Like, oh, I've searched 3 websites. It's not here. But it's still going. Like, the search is still going. That inner loop is still executing. But meanwhile, you can chat with it. That was the innovation that happened, I think, in November when OpenClaw became so popular. Suddenly, things were happening, but you could still speak to the agent. The conversation never stopped. And that was this construct. It started doing inner loops, and the outer loop was empty, was waiting, was just there. The 8-line loop of we wait for the tool until the thing is done, that's the children's version. The real shape you can see in OpenClaw's agentloop.ts. And whether you are from coding background or not, I highly recommend that you actually go onto GitHub and look into this one particular file, agent-loop.ts. It's roughly 300 lines. Let your AI explain it to you. It's fine. Like, you don't have to understand code. But the logic behind it, what happens once you type, this explains it beautifully. What happens from step 1 and how it goes until you actually get to the stop. Because it's not even about what's being produced. It's about when the agent stops. An agent is an agent because it has its own autonomy. It can keep running. But you want to know when it stops. Why did it stop? How can I make it run for 3 days? If I make an agent and say, make me money, I want it to run 24/7, right? So if I ever make that agent, I'm gonna keep it for myself. But yeah, essentially, this is how you can get the best sense of what makes it tick. And that's the whole secret of the success behind Hermes, success behind Claude Code, success behind everything. Isn't usually in this agent loop. Yeah, so toy versus product lives here. And once you start playing with it, the actual cool stuff is when you start steering the model. So mid-conversation, how do you actually interrupt it in a way that you can steer the conversation? How can you queue messages? If you can queue 20 messages, perfect. I mean, that agent effectively never stops even when it stops. Next up, third primitive, the transport SDK or SDK. This is a thing that's closest to my home, because everything that I construct, I don't want to be vendor locked. I don't want to be forced to use Anthropic. I don't want to be forced to use OpenAI or anything else. Now, how do you make that happen? If you are making your own harness, or if you are using things such as PI or Hermes or even OpenClaw, those are usually model agnostic. But how are they model agnostic? Because they normalized the transport. They normalize everything that comes out of the intelligence into something that can be machine processed within the harness. It is a very basic principle. It is a primitive that absolutely should be an integral part, and especially in today's climate, of every system that you are making. If you normalize provider profile, so if I'm calling Anthropic, this is what I expect. If I'm calling OpenAI, this is what I expect. And at the end, I'm still getting my slides, I'm still getting my responses, I'm still getting my searches. That is what makes you powerful and really dangerous in today's world. Because if Fable goes offline, you don't care. Just switch to the competitor. So this is what actually makes it happen. And I think, switch models with Hermes model. So Hermes, from my point of view, is one of the better examples of how you can work with multiple providers at the same time, and also how you can work with multiple providers from the get-go. Luckily enough, these things are open source. So you can just go to GitHub, grab it, like literally grab the code, feed it to your AI, tell it, I want to be model agnostic from today going forward. And that's it. It's done. Just grab it. Primitive number 4, tool dispatch. Now this is something that OpenClaw is actually great at. So from OpenClaw's agent tool, you can run it sequentially, in parallel. You have different arguments that are prepared. So if I get from intelligence XY, I can immediately do this. If I get something else, either cut it or feed it back. And that's what they call healing. So with the 4th primitive of a tool dispatch, you are basically constructing an expected shape for the tool calls. If the web search returns a bunch of images, and you didn't want images, you just wanted text. Now, discard that, run it again. I want a text. If I'm doing slides and I get Word document at the end, that's not good. You are defining these things in your harness, be it PI or Claude Code, etc. You can do it very much yourself. Again, OpenClaw's agents tool, grab it, check how they are doing it. This is a very mature, at this point, set that you can integrate into your solution quite easily. This is deep. Okay. So how does it work? Usually, when you say you can do web search, you also have to tell the intelligence how. So it's, okay, I have web search here, but unless the model was directly trained on that tool, you also need to append, you do web search this way. The most notable entries, or the most notable approximation to this primitive, is when you connect outside sources through MCPs. So I hope you've all already heard about the ability to connect pretty much everything on this planet to an AI using Model Context Protocol. An MCP is a standardized way of exposing and showing tools to your agent. So that basically is this primitive. Here is a tool, my connector to Notion. This is how you use it. Learn how the definition works, and then you can add things like approval gates. You can only connect to Notion if I say so. If there is no operator message, and it's within your loop, don't do that. So only on the first turn. You can start modeling it to your liking, either from the security perspective or from the functional perspective. So, this is primitive number 4. Primitive number 5, and this is the most important one, in my opinion, context management. Every AI intelligence, I'm not even saying harness or agent, every intelligence has a limited attention span. Claude, by default, 1 million tokens. ChatGPT, 400,000 tokens. Average teenager, 5 seconds on TikTok. Everybody has a limited attention span. It's very much true for agents as well. Now, when we want to do agents and when we want to make agents run, what a lot of people don't really care about is the actual context size. Agent is only as smart as the amount of tokens you put and shove into it. So if I wanted to do something, it's going to consume a portion of that context intelligence. So I have to be mindful with balancing how much do I actually give it, what is the approximation of the task I want it to do, what happens at the end, and how do we make that cycle, and how do we make it repeat itself, and how do we make it somewhat deterministic so we can continue doing the same thing for weeks at a time, ideally 24/7. Because that's what agents should be for. If you have one job, one task, create reports or something stupid, similar like that, that should be automated. That should be automated using intelligence. But if you shove 180,000 lines of data into it, it's never going to give you a good result because it only has a very finite attention span. And once you overload it, done. It's finished. It's going to get done. So, context management is a subtle differentiator. Harness keeps a richer transcript than the model ever sees. From OpenClause convert to LLM. Harness message types in the transcript, bash execution, compaction summary, etc. It collapses down to 3 wire roles. Bash execution user rendered as text, compaction summary user, summary, and branch summary user assistant tools result. So a lot of the stuff that happens on the background, you actually don't want to keep, you want to chuck it away. Last week we actually had a talk, I don't know, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. About context management in a sense of how do we stretch it further? How can we even make it a little bit bigger than it already is? And there are tools, there are certain tips and tricks that you can do even today in order to kind of prolong the context window size and still make it kind of smart. And we can touch up on that after the presentation, I can show you. But yeah, in general, the 5th primitive is how you handle context. So we construct what we want the agent to see and what are we feeding it. Then we define what is the loop, how does it actually turn, how does it go around. We define where does it go through, the transport of the data itself. Then we do tools dispatch. What are we actually allowing it to do? And do not overload this one. A lot of people are very trigger happy and they just connect like 1,500 different MCPs and skills and other things into one agent. And it just like it's cognitive overload. It doesn't know what to do or which tool to use. And then we manage the context. That goes hand in hand. Think about it from the perspective. Every single time you want an agent to do something, and especially from the context perspective, you need to feed it data. The more data you feed it, the more options it has. Therefore, more options to actually choose wrong rather than choose right. And this is where the human in the loop, like, am I the one constructing the agents, or am I letting the agent construct itself, comes into play. And how the harnesses differ. So we have different shapes and sizes, and some of them are open, some of them are not. For Claude Code, it's primarily for coding. It lives in the terminal, in the IDE. Persistence is per session. Model, fixed to Anthropic one. License is proprietary, and there are not that many stars, or not that I know of. Codex, again, for coding, lives in a terminal, but they have a desktop app as well, and it's way better than ChatGPT app. If you are using ChatGPT app, switch away immediately to Codex app. It's way better. Codex session is their persistence layer, so once the session is done, finished, forgotten. Model is Codex OpenAI, so ChatGPT. License is proprietary, but Codex CLI is open source. And I don't know, it has some stars for sure. Hermes is not a coding agent. The product of a Hermes and product of OpenClaw is not the thing that lives in your terminal. The product is the gateway, is the layer that shapes the envelope, that creates the agentic loop. The runtime usually is PI. In Hermes' case, it's their proprietary thing, but it's something that's available on the market. So that thing runs, right? It already has something, but what is the product? What is the product of Hermes is actually the gateway, the thing that creates the rules, the thing that creates the gates, like, you can't pass here. This tool is not allowed. That's the product. Where it runs and how it runs, Hermes doesn't care. And it's the same with OpenClaw. Hermes daemon is a thing that's always on. Yeah, persistence is that it basically never stops. Model, you can choose any that you want. Hermes is 200,000 stars recently, wow, on GitHub. OpenClaw, pretty much the same story, just 380,000 stars. And then there is a closed source options that are primarily meant for enterprise, such as Kyber Agent. And yeah, those usually have a very different approach to how things work. What can you do to actually understand, and like, how can you level up in this agentic era? You don't have to invent things from scratch. There are already plenty of examples available on the market from which you can learn and abstract information and knowledge. Very good sources, and we named them OpenClaw. It's this viral sensation of a thing that does things for you. What nobody tells you, that it takes like 2 weeks to properly set up, so you don't waste a lot of money, so you don't burn a bunch of time once you actually start using it. And some things, such as context management, memory systems, etc., only recently they have been sorta perfected. Up until now, perfect. You spend some time, you set it up. 1 month down the line, the agent is dumb. Because it was not solving for these primitives, not out of the box. It was meant to be a passion, personal project that suddenly blew up, right? Treated as such. Hermes agents, more or less the same story, came out a little bit ahead at a time that OpenClaw was getting the spotlight from the perspective of quality, but I would say that the OpenClaw has caught up, and currently, whether you're using OpenClaw or Hermes, doesn't really matter. Loop is the same, they construct things roughly the same, they treat memory, context and everything, all 5 of those primitives that we touched upon, they kind of sort of perfect it. So they're good systems. I've named some files that you can look directly into in terms of what do I actually want to learn from this. And I highly implore you, just tell your AI to download that file and look into it.
Is this a couple of weeks to set up as well?
It depends on what you want from it, but I would argue that currently even OpenClaw is not a couple of weeks to set up. Like, because they treat persistence a little bit better, it's actually far quicker. The things that I personally like about Hermes and not OpenClaw is that they came from work ethic perspective right out of the box. So when you think about the agentic loop, it's mostly fire and forget. What Hermes did right out of the box, even when they launched, they had this Kanban. So a very simple, okay, I'm working on this. Let me write it down somewhere and then come back to it in the next conversation. So with this simple adjustment, it was actually able to think better because it was able to reference its past steps and actually move the projects down the line. That's not to discredit OpenClaw, but this is the thing that I liked about Hermes more. It was more geared towards work, less geared towards I'm your personal assistant. So they were solving different things. Try to feed source files and not just the README. README is there to talk to the masses. What you are after is how it actually works. Because once you understand the primitive, you are well posed to actually go a step further, to construct something yourself, to make something better, to improve upon it. And because these are open source projects, you can just grab them, and once you understand the primitives, you can improve them and have your own version of them. And that's what millions of people are doing to level up. Yeah, OpenClaw is cool, but have you heard about Eve? Eve is from the creator of OpenClaw, and it's his own private fork where he does things differently. And he charges people for it because it's good. And this is from understanding the primitives, seeing the gap, identifying market opportunity, and then capitalizing on it. It's that simple. So we start from the bottom, understand what we need to know, and then start building on top of it. You can just git clone it, gets downloaded on your hard drive, doesn't even need to run, you just want to inspect it. Claude Code and Codex CLI, this is not true. Codex CLI is not proprietary, it's open source. So yeah, you can get them, you can download them. You don't have access to source files, but I mean, it works. So if you actually want to use it, these two are definitely number one choices. Kyber agent. So when we started with Kyber agent, we were basically handed the legacy project that was Kyber agent desktop. That was meant to be a personal agentic system, multi-agentic system. With the switch from Anthropic, where they disallowed people using subscriptions with SDK, there was a problem. Like, you can't really be focused just on one thing because it might get pulled from under you very quickly. That's how Kyber agent from our buddy Ian Borders came to fruition. It's a multi-agentic system, and I can actually show you. So it looks like this. Let's do an amber and dark. Yeah. So it has an orchestrator agent that basically is there just to issue tasks, to generate loops for other agents. Then you have scoped agents. This one is locked for Anthropic. There's another one that is locked for Codex. these are the ones, this is very much a development build, by the way. These are the ones that I'm actually utilizing myself to be adversarial agents. So once one loop finishes, the other one triggers and tries to criticize the work of the other one. And then a primitive of the feedback, and I want to keep the loop alive, is that they talk through dispatch. Like, oh, you just finished something, it's shit. Redo it. And that's the basis of the system. Now, when we're talking about constructing from the primitives, once we have the basic loop and we have the basic agents defined, then we start adding things on top of the message envelope. In my case, there is this whole extension system where if I want some more capability to be added to the agent, I create an extension that is using standardized, where is it? That's using standardized transport. Where is it? Standardized transport. So it's always falling within the same category of a response. Whatever I'm building, it has to follow the principle of, it doesn't matter if I'm talking to Anthropic or I'm talking to this intelligence or that intelligence, I'm constructing the things deterministically in my harness. And the responses, they must get kind of cut into the same shape so I can process them and I can feed them back whatever other intelligence I deem fit. Currently, it's for two only, for Anthropic and ChatGPT, OpenAI. But it could be more soon. Absolutely, no problem. If it's built on primitives, then you can pretty much chuck anything you want into it. So this is what starts adjusting the message envelope, and it starts constructing the agents to a shape that I actually want from them. When I go to an agent, let's say community ops, the very basic layer is what skills do I give it? So once the message envelope is constructed, what is the message? The message is hi, hello. Welcome to the world, Mr. Community Ops Agent. But with the same message envelope, I'm actually passing these small descriptions and skill names appended. So my first message that says hello is effectively one token or two tokens. But I'm appending another 1,500 tokens with the capabilities of the actual agent. Again, that's what makes agent an agent. Then we get into the less fun stuff. Like once we start introducing corporate aspects, and once we start introducing, don't want to even say foreign agents, but foreign tenants, how do we solve for granulation? How do we solve for access? How do we solve for a bunch of other things? That's what actually creates the harness a harness, and that's why this harness is custom developed, and it's not your, I don't want to say run out of mail, but like Claude desktop. So this is the inflection point for when you understand what an agent is, you can construct it better, you can prompt it better, you can connect it just in time, and then you can start building your own. So this is the inflection point. If you want to go deeper into this, we might want to have a different session in terms of custom harnesses and how to start constructing one. But up until this point, I think it was a little bit too technical, but maybe not technical enough. It depends on who you ask. You should have the 5 basic primitives of what an agent is. and you should start digging deeper to understand what actually makes these things tick. So the next time someone comes and goes like, I have this agent who does this, you're like, cool, buddy. It's just text. So cool. You can start seeing things from a different point of view and from a different perspective, that literally everything is doable, at least from the data perspective, because it's all just text that you are feeding the intelligence with the expected return. And if you understand that and you know how to navigate within that, you will be absolutely dangerous in the years to come. Where did we stop? Come on and read them. Yeah, so we had to reconstruct the message envelope to be omnipresent for both Anthropic and OpenAI. TLDR on these points, the message envelope actually runs through Kyber Agent's daemon, and that daemon is constantly running, constantly normalizing everything into one shape. So when we feed it to OpenAI and get it back, we can feed the same thing in the same session to Anthropic, get a response from Opus. So it's very, very, very cool, because one singular session, you can switch the providers, no problem. It's a little bit costly because there is no caching, but yeah, it's very, very omnipresent. Kernel, basically the entire loop that was constructed in Kyber Agents abstracts from existing loops in Codex App Server and Claude SDK. Very much utilization of their already proven loops makes it way easier for us not to have hangs, which is the number one thing if you ever start going this way. The actual end of the loop is going to be your pain points. Like, you will prompt it and it will go, it will do something, and then nothing. Like, it will stop at certain points. So if you utilize Agents SDK, I think it's called, for Anthropic, and Codex has Codex App Server, you can construct very easily these loops. Also, PI has their own runtime for it. Don't remember what it's called. It's been like half a year. In terms of transport, we do have one interface, but we are not model bound. So we can choose and pick any provider, any model. Everything happens in Kyber Agents daemon, and then it only gets like flicked into the lane where it's supposed to go, where the operator, such as myself, actually wants it to go. So that is very, very simplistic. Routing works across the providers because we are in charge of the session. Tools and gates, this is the thing that we've spent, or at least I've spent the most time at, because you need to have specific typed contracts that communicate with the daemon in terms of how a tool is shaped, what are the capabilities, what is the discoverability. What I want from my system is when I add a tool into it, I don't want to rewrite the code. I want it to be picked up automatically. Like, I don't really want to redo the code base every time I want to add a new provider for web search. Like, that's stupid. So a dynamic surface, it's usually software development kit, plugins SDK, extensions SDK, typed contract with capabilities, works beautifully. Tools are registered through manifest, and if you are doing this, I highly recommend that. Every app, if you're doing a Surface app, has a hidden folder. Just have a manifest there, and that manifest scans local file system. Are there any new things? Yes. Pull them into the manifest. Super simplistic, super easy. In terms of context and audits, private transcript can double as audit logs. And compaction strategy, basically, if you are utilizing things like Agents SDK or Codex App Server, you can use their compaction mechanisms. So everything that you build in terms of compacting the context, you can keep in your own layer, and the bottom version or the bottom lane, you can just let run by default on how Claude constructed it or how OpenAI teams constructed it. Don't even mess with it, to be honest. Only if you want to compact earlier than the automatic compaction window through these lanes. All right. What to do this week? Read at least one of the agent loop TypeScript files, top to bottom. I'm not saying you specifically, especially if you're not coder. Like, you don't really have to. But at least let your AI describe to you what's happening. How do these lines go through sequentially? What's happening in the agentic loop? Because understanding that means you understand every single harness on the market, every single loop on the market. And when they come out with new, beautiful way of doing XY, you will immediately know how to use it. Because underneath, it's all just loops. It's all just agentic loops. It's intelligence, I want X, here is X, and that's it. If you want, this is not mandatory, you know, design your envelope. If you are feeding agent something, what do you want to feed it? What would your ideal envelope be? And find ways and means of the system that you are using of how to construct it. If you could send only one message, just one, in order for agents to finish a task, what would that message be? What data would you have to sprinkle in? If I want a transcript from this conversation, what do I need to supply to my agent in this one message so it understands where to go, what to do, and what to do afterwards with that information? For this particular one, I'm going to give you an example. I want a transcript from today's meetup, plus a tool called YTDLP, which, YouTube DLP, which can grab audio from YouTube, plus transcription, download a model that can take in audio and provide text. Take the text and store it somewhere. Let's say Notion. Here is Notion connector. Here is the format that I want it to be saved in. I want it summarized. So a simple give me transcript from today's meetup has to be appended by 6 more things in order for AI to actually execute what I want. Now, the autonomy of these systems and why some systems feel so good is that you can skip a couple of these. And the AI already has a loop. He didn't tell me that he wants to use Notion. Let me figure out what do I actually still have here in the app. I have connector to Obsidian. I have connector to Google Drive. I have connector here. I have connector there. Maybe he wanted this. That's what generates non-deterministic results, right? But that's also the beautiful part of the AI, where give me a transcript of today's meetup minus the 6 things that I've just mentioned, will still execute the job, just maybe 80% of the way, because some things will be different than I actually wanted it to. If you can, go model agnostic. If you are using CLI, try things like PI, which is a coding harness, which is very minimal. Put only things that you want into it. Don't overload it. And try switching different models. DeepSeek, Claude, OpenAI. if you can, and you are constructing something on your own, especially from the agentic perspective, a very good example for this is Cloud Managed Agents. Cloud Managed Agents, they create you the entire agentic loop. It's on the cloud. It's very convenient. It's vendor locked. You can't take the same agent if they cut the access to Fable and you wanted to use that. You can't take that agent and let it run with OpenAI. You can't take it and let it run on DeepSeek. But if you're constructing your agent using the Eve file system, any other means, if you are construct it where you normalize the message, so you can plug in any intelligence source that's on the market, that is cheap, that is available. Not 20 if statements. It's your cost lever. You can route cheap tasks to cheap models and swap freely. Again, best example for this approach, Hermes and OpenClaw. And pick your shape honestly. So whatever you are doing, think about it from the perspective of where you actually want to go with the agentic system. If you are going for just a personal thing, Hermes, OpenClaw, absolutely fine. It's always on. You want it to be always on. You want it to listen to you. You want to chat with it. If you want something that's productive, more project focus, I would argue, pick a coding harness. And that's why I strongly recommend, if you are on things like ChatGPT app, stop using that and start using Codex app. It's roughly the same thing, roughly the same experience, just way better in terms of capabilities. Because it's programmatic, so it can figure out how to connect to things. Whereas ChatGPT is a very narrowed down experience that's just for chatting. Yeah. Define your primitives. So whatever your primitives are, define them on a piece of paper and start understanding how the agent loops works and how can you construct your own. And then just chat with AI. I mean, the best part about AI is that it can construct your agents. But you have to be mentally prepared on answering the 5 primitives questions. What do I want to do? Do I want to run only with one model, or do I want to run with more? How often does it need to spin? How many times does it need to spin? What is too much? What is not enough? And all of these questions, once you honestly answer it, you can construct your own agent without any issues. Okay, that's essentially it. It was a little bit more meta than I initially wanted. But yeah, that's kind of a deep dive on how to understand what's under the hood of these agentic systems and actually how to get a level up for years to come. Because unless something really breaking happens, every new model follows the same principles. It's been the same for years now. And if I understood this 2 years ago, you can construct your own OpenClaw. You can construct your own anything. This is how all of the AIs work. In general, there is not much that has changed in this loop and in these systems over the course of the last 2 years. But it's all this marketing that we're always getting into our heads, like, you have to get this one because it can do this. Well, every AI on the market currently, at least from the frontier perspective, can do pretty much everything. It's all about how you construct the agent. That's it. So, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And thank you very much for everyone who's joined on the live stream. That's going to be it.
in the beginning you said that you might come back to that thing about how you extend or manage the context window.
Oh yeah. Just give me a sec.